Now, even if this isn't true, some of this might have influenced later Greek monotheists known as the Hypsisterians. These Hypsisterians inhabited the same lands as the Christians and worshippers in Orphics were, which was the Anatolia and Thrace region. And they believed in a God Most High, Theos Hypsistos. And it turns out that this cult may have formed from the native Cappadocian cult of Zeus Sabazios, with integration of Jewish ideals. However, these strict monotheists, who also fraternized with the Jews and heavily borrowed from the Greek Septuagint, also considered themselves free from the laws of Moses, something that lines up with the writings of Paul. Could it be that the people who Paul are writing to in these letters are in fact worshippers of Theos Hypsistos, the God Most High? Clement of Alexandria, in his famous Protrepticus, wrote that he had been informed that the secret mysteries of Sabazios, as practiced among the Romans, involved a serpent, chthonic creature, unconnected with the mountain god of Phrygia, Sabazios. And he says that God in the bosom is a countersign of the mysteries of Sabazios to the adepts. He said that this is a snake passed through the bosom of the initiates. Now, why is that so profound? Because the term God in the bosom from the Gospel of John in chapter 1, verse 18, it says that no man hath seen God at any time. The only begotten Son, which is in the bosom of the Father, he hath declared him. This would turn out to be one of the most important verses in the Bible for Trinitarian theology. The Father is in the Son, and the Son is in the Father. In the same way that Dionysus or Zagreus is inside of Sabazios or Zeus. Sabazios is a god of dual nature who is Father and Son rolled into one, connected through a mediator, which is the spirit that possesses the initiates in the frenzies. Sabazios, to the Roman world, mediated in large part through Pergamum. The naturally syncretic approach of Greek religion blurred distinctions. Diodorus of Sicily conflated Sabazios with the secret second Dionysus that only initiates know about, not found in any text, who was born of Zeus and Persephone. The idea of a trinity, usually a god of dual nature, connected by a third spiritual nature that mediates in between them. We see this long before Christianity comes along. For example, Plato in his Timaeus says, anything created then is bound to be corporeal, visible and tangible, but fire is required for the creation of anything visible, and solidity for anything that is tangible, and earth for solidity. It follows that the God began to form the body of the universe out of fire and earth. But it's impossible for any two things to form from proper structure without the presence of a third thing. There has to be some bond to mediate between the two of them and bring them together. The best bond is the one that most effectively unifies itself and the things it is joining, and nothing does this better than correspondence. For whenever among three numbers, the matter, three solids, or three powers, one is a mean, such as the first in the series stands to be the mean, so the mean stands to the final number of the series, or conversely, as the final number stands to the mean. So the mean stands to the first. Then the mean can also be treated as first or last, or alternatively, the first and last terms can be treated as means. And so all of them will, out of necessity, turn out to be identical. And since they are identical, they are all three one. The Greek Jewish writer Philo expands upon Platonism through the Jewish lens in his book titled, "Who is the Divine Heir of All Things?" He says, but there are three kinds of life. The first life to God, the second with respect to the creature, and the third is on the borders of both, being compounded of the two others. For since the soul is spoken of in two ways, first of all as whole, secondly as the dominant part of it, which to speak properly is the soul of the soul, just as the eye is both the whole orb and also the most important part of that orb, that namely by which we see it seemed good to the lawgiver that the essence of the soul should be likewise twofold, blood being the essence of the entire soul, and the divine spirit being the essence of the dominant part of it. Accordingly, the soul of all flesh is the blood thereof. The creator of the universe breathed into his face the breath of life, and man became a living soul, who also, it is recorded, who fashioned after the image of the creator. So the race of mankind is also twofold, the one being the race and those who live by the divine spirit and reason, is formed of the earth, but that other is an accurate copy of the divine image. He then later on says, the body to fit it for its appropriate stationary conditions or motions is invisible, spermatic, technical, and divine logos, which shall most properly be dedicated to the Father. Apportion cold and heat, and summer and spring, the different seasons of the year, divided by this dividing logos. For thus God allotted 3 days to eternity, before the appearance of the sun. Those which came after the sun, he allotted to time, the sun being the imitation of eternity, and time being the two primary powers of living God, the one his beneficent power, in accordance which he made the world and is called God, and the other the chastening power, according to which he rules and governs what he has created, in respect which he further denominated Lord. And these two he here states to be divided in the middle by him, standing above them both. For he says, I will speak to you from above the mercy seat, in the midst between the two cherubims, that he might show the most ancient powers of the living God are equal, that is, his beneficent and chastising power being both divided by the same dividing logos.